Hello and welcome to the Guys with Texas podcast, episode 7, where it's all brakes and no gas late in the fourth quarter. Texas decides to play down to their competition this week and allows Oklahoma in the last minute drive to just walk on in. That pretty much sums everything up for me this week.
Yeah.
Pain.
I was watching Steve Sarkisian's press conference on the drive home this afternoon, and they were asking him about clock management at the end, and he was saying that he wouldn't have done anything differently with that last drive, and that just blew me away because that was the thing I was screaming at the TV about. Why are we not bleeding this clock dry?
I saw somebody, if he would have snapped the ball with 10 seconds left in the play clock on every play on our last drive, there would have been no time left.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about it. This is the first ever podcast of a loss, boys. All right, we got to episode 7, so that's good.
I don't like this.
I know. So let's talk about the first quarter. Quinn comes out and looks shaky. You could tell he was a little bit rattled with the spotlight in the middle of this game specifically. It's a little different to me when you're talking about Oklahoma in Texas versus Alabama in Texas. Alabama, you're coming in as the underdog, and it's like you're not supposed to win. This one, we came in, we were supposed to win, and you have all that pressure on top of you. And started out very shaky with the first drive, throwing the interception. And then you could see, though, he very quickly kind of switched out of that. There was a play specifically where I noticed he was about to throw the ball directly into Oklahoma, and he tucked back down and ran for yardage instead. So he adjusted. He had 371 yards for the game. Except for the 2 interceptions, he managed the game well. He did have a fumble as well. So there's so many different things, but as far as the first quarter went, that was the one thing that I looked for is that Quinn just didn't have it in the first quarter. It's the exact reverse from last year.
It's crazy that as bad as it felt that we played, that we were still in the game in the fourth quarter. That blows my mind because the entire game I felt like we were just giving up, weren't making the plays we needed to do, missed tackles, and then you get to the fourth quarter and we're in position to still win this game. And I guess that's what's so frustrating is that we're good enough to do that and let this one slip away.
Yeah, I'm going to look at the glass half full with Quinn. If this was last year's Quinn, he would have folded and probably would have had 200 yards and another interception. He did bounce back and really took control of the game. He set the school record for most completions in a row after those interceptions. That's impressive. And he didn't do it with a deep ball either, which, that's something that I wanted to bring up is why aren't we even trying it like that? I get that they're going to be covering it, but what's the bad in just taking a shot to keep a defense honest? And we saw OU do it multiple times and get penalties for pass interference. You put defenders in tough situations, especially with a guy like Worthy or somebody like that running deep. I don't know. I just don't get why we don't take those shots deep. And we haven't seen him much, honestly, since Alabama. We haven't really tested a defense too much. Quinn was doing a great job with those medium, 10 to 15-yard passes. Jordan Winnington played a great game, I felt like, as well. But it's just kind of interesting. I don't understand why we're not taking those shots. You can't tell me that it's that covered up,
I think, number one, you sound like me with Dak Prescott, number one. Okay? Glass half full guy all the time with Dak, and now I'm out with that. But that's something we've always been talking. We thought Sark was holding his cards, he didn't want to throw the deep ball yet because he just wants to hold his cards. I was completely wrong on all of that. I don't understand. You have all of these top-notch receivers. Let them run. I don't get it. We established a lot with Brooks. Brooks was running the ball, and he also was throwing the out pass all the time. We established all that, so why not start taking deep balls? I don't get it. Sark, to me, was the biggest loser of this game. Like I still number one, I'm a full backer of Sarkisian. He's huge for our program. I think he's doing great things. But with this game, he completely folded in a lot of aspects. Now, I don't blame him on the 1 yard line on the goal, 1st and 1 yard to get a touchdown. I don't blame him on that. I do blame him on bringing Sweat in to just try and get in front, and Sweat did not do anything on those 4.
Yeah, I was
Like
going
that-
to bring that up as well. I don't like the idea of bringing defensive linemen in. I know that that's the package that we've ran a time or two this season. It looked dysfunctional. They looked like they look like defensive linemen out there trying to just throw their weight around. And there's a technique to all of this, and it didn't work. And I don't know why he kept with it for 2 more times after that.
If
Yeah.
you're gonna do that, just hike the ball to Sweat and let him just push it in, like just
Yeah.
or at least get him right behind Ewers and just push him in. Like that's all we had to do. Just get weight behind him and push him in. 1 yard. I will say Oklahoma's defense, especially like late in the game, I thought we were starting to wear them down. They just did not let up the whole time. Like they looked very good on defense. Offense, they looked like basically what we thought they were going to be. The only rushing yards that they had was from Gabriel, which he had 113 yards.
Yeah.
But our run defense did well.
Yeah.
That's the run defense was not Gabriel scrambling. We can't go off of that, but how do we not? And Johnny, you said this during the game. How do you not have a spy on Gabriel? And it felt like in the 4th quarter specifically, it was like just let him do whatever he wants.
It was so frustrating, but I have to give a lot more props to Oklahoma than I thought. I didn't think that they were going to be that much improved, and I was really impressed and surprised to see how well their defense did. Not that I feel like our offense was performing like at top gear, but they were a lot better than I thought they were. And I had the same thing. Like it was like late 3rd quarter, and I was like, "Oh, they're starting to get gassed. I think we're about to start breaking them." And it's like, dude, they came back out in the next possession and were just full go again, and it was so frustrating. And dude, our O line blew me away. What was it? 5 sacks. I could not believe that we were giving up that much pressure. And Gabriel kept looking like he had double the time and then wide lanes to escape from. It was so frustrating.
That's something we're going to have to tighten up because as far as the run coverage, like our offensive line did well with the run. They did not do well for pass protecting at all.
No.
And that's what was very frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, you look at offensively for Oklahoma, I mean, they completely took our defensive line out of the game as far as pass rush goes. I mean, the way that they were getting the ball out of Gabriel's hand quickly, just the plays that they were running, they gave us no chance to really pin our ears back and actually go at him. The only time we did have a shot to do that was on that last drive, and they didn't get to him like at all. And I just don't get them pulling and just sitting back in coverage like that. We were running a zone and for a while and it wasn't working. And then we went to man on defense. And that's when we saw us actually start having some success on defense against them. And then for some reason on that last drive, they went back to zone, just dropping people back. And he had all day. I mean, he was just sitting back there, you know, taking the 15 yards, taking the 20 yards that we were giving him. I don't get why we didn't put pressure on him. He's a quarterback that's shown over time that he's shaky under pressure, and they didn't really dial up any kind of blitzes. And it was disappointing to see. I don't really understand that piece of it.
Yeah. With the defense, number one, the one thing we talked about they have to do is tackle, and they did a lot of not doing that in the open field specifically. Like sometimes they're great, but there's sometimes they don't know what they're doing when they're trying to tackle, and that you've seen it all year, and the same thing popped up. So that's something we're going to have to sharpen up. We got the quarterback once, and that was Hill. Hill was the only one to get there.
Yeah.
I feel like if we're going to make a big push, that's what's going to have to change, because all everyone's talked about was our defense, which we've done well, but we all know where the Big 12's at based off of last week's game specifically. Like the rest of the Big 12 is trash.
Yeah.
And so we're going to look good against all of that. Now we're going to have to really buckle down and figure it out before hopefully we get back to the Big 12 championship and finish that out, because that's the only real thing that kept us from winning that game to me is the defense not being able to tackle an open field. Everything else, yes, there were problems, but when you go back and look at it, like the problem for me is the drive that we scored on to tie the game. We looked great. You could tell Sark just let loose on the playbook and let's get the ball down the field, threw a lot of balls into the open space. We moved the ball very quickly. That last drive, I don't get running the ball on third down when we're tied. Like, who cares at that point? Like, you're leaving too much time on the clock. Throw the ball, try and get a first down. If you don't, I mean, just go for it again. You really didn't trust Auburn to begin with. The only reason we kicked that is because we got to a point where he felt, okay, Auburn can possibly make this kick. Which, by the way, Auburn, we all were very nervous that whole game, and he was money. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like when he kicked that one, I was like, all right, we're okay. But then I looked at the clock. I was like, yeah, we should be fine with our defense. And then we just played soft.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't think I've had a game give me this much anxiety. I can't remember one. That Auburn kick, dude, I was like, my hands were shaking. I was just like, there's no way he's going to make this. But that entire first quarter, I was just going crazy. I could not control my heart rate.
Here's my problem for this weekend is that I had to move. So I went hunting in the morning. I got up real early to go hunting with my dad. Didn't see anything. We get up out of the deer stand. We drive to Buffalo Wild Wings in Rockwall. We go watch the game. And then right after game, I had to turn right around and move and get right into Rangers baseball. Like the intensity of going straight from one game to Rangers baseball, which is the exact same for me. Like I felt the exact same momentum and all the stress with the Rangers game. And then to go to bed early, I went to bed. I fell asleep at like 5 o'clock on Saturday night because I was just done. Like I gave everything I had, and then I went to bed and had to wake back up and go right back at it for the Rangers game. By the time the Cowboys game happened, I was like, I don't care. I'm done. Like whatever happens, happens. Like normally I'm all in on Cowboys games. I was finished at that point. I couldn't even keep up with the game. I was like, oh well, Dak threw another interception. Here we go. I was exhausted this morning. Like I'm spent. So I hear you, but that was like that for me the entire weekend.
Dude, yeah, I don't know if I would have made it through a weekend like that. That game was enough for me. That's crazy.
And it doesn't stop. I'm driving to Dallas tomorrow. I'm going to the Ranger game tomorrow in Dallas, and then I'm turning right back around that night and coming back for work in the morning. So there's no sleep for the weary right now. I've got this is buckle up time for me. I got to help these teams win right now. So, who do you think was the winner and the loser for the Texas side for this Oklahoma game?
I don't understand the question.
Like as far as players go for the Texas Longhorns.
Okay.
Who do you think impressed you as far as their overall performance this week? And who were you like, what are we doing?
I'd say winners. I mean, the first person that came to my mind, obviously, is Auburn, giving us a little bit more confidence in him. And the second one that comes to mind right away, like I know Quinn struggled at the beginning, but not letting that like derail him for an entire game really impressed me. He ended up coming out with really good stats and didn't look like he was playing scared from the rest of the game after those 2 turnovers. Outside of that, somebody notable. Gunnar Helm. Gunnar Helm was impressive. I mean, they've been attempting to get him involved, and like it actually happening. That was great to see.
I think Sanders being hurt a little bit. I think that involved him a lot more. But yeah, Helm like came out of nowhere, and he was heavily involved for a while. I was like, okay, this is a little different. That's a big boy.
Yeah,
that I feel like we should be. He's like a Jason Witten type build. Like he should be running in the same way.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
What about you, Jonathan?
I think as far as the bright spots go, I mean, I know defensively there wasn't a whole lot of positives, but I think you look at Anthony Hill. I think he had his best game of the season, honestly. I mean, he had 8 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss. He had a sack. He had 5 solo tackles. I mean, he really shined when he got the opportunity, which was nice to see from the freshman. And then offensively, man, I'm CJ Baxter again, man. He's just hasn't shown me anything that's given me a whole lot of hope. I know he's highly talented. I know he's a talented kid, but like his vision, he's just not seeing things. I mean, he had 7 carries for 18 yards, and 9 of those yards were on 1 carry.
I
So
keep wondering what they saw in him during spring.
it's just confusing to me
Ugh.
that he's still. I know that he deserves to get carries. You know, he deserves to get a chance for sure, but I just don't know what they're seeing in him right now because we ran the ball pretty well with Brooks. Brooks looked pretty well all day, in my opinion. But every time CJ got in there, it was like stuff to the line of scrimmage, stuff to the line of scrimmage. And I just don't know if he's not seeing the field like Brooks is or what the deal is, but that was disappointing for me because I kind of felt like for some reason he was going to have a big game. I mean, this is a big moment that you want to step up in as a freshman, and we saw Anthony Hill on the defensive side of the ball do it, but CJ Baxter on the offensive side of the ball didn't do it.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing that I've had the last like 4 or 5 games with Baxter. It's like when he's in there, you don't even know he's actually really playing. Like he's a solid backup right now. Like he is a give Brooks rest,
Yeah,
and that's what he is right now. And at some point, we're gonna have to let Red in there and see.
yeah,
Besides the fourth down conversions, he
which he's
is
been
money.
super good at.
He's
Yeah,
money on it. It's unconventional, but it's been very good. But I think it's time to start letting some of these other guys, especially in some of these games where we're probably going to be ahead in the third and fourth quarter, let him in there and let them start getting experience because Baxter's just not doing it for me right now. Like he's not.
yeah,
Um, I think one of the winners for me, I mean, obviously Brooks. He's impressed me a lot. Like even as good as Oklahoma was on defense, he was still finding holes. He just figures out how to make it happen, and he's that Bijan Robinson type, and we found it quick, which is wild. Like
hmm
just the numbers he's putting up right now is pretty absurd. Even for he had 129 yards just for this game, and you look at the stats across the board in this Texas Oklahoma game, and it 371 passing yards versus 285 for Oklahoma, 201 rushing yards, but 113 of those Gabriel. Like as far as Brooks getting 129 yards against this defense, like that was stellar performance for him. Um, Now some of the ones that I'm disappointed in, Adonai Mitchell just wasn't really there. He didn't seem like he was getting a lot of open looks. These guys with speed, Mitchell and Worthy, like those guys are the ones that should be getting open. Now, whether or not that's Sark or not, I don't know. But I feel like, Worthy had the 39-yard for a long, but Adonai really didn't affect anything in the game, and he's supposed to be that money guy for us along with Worthy. And so Mitchell was one that kind of disappointed me there. But Barron also on the defensive side, Barron looked good. He had a lot of tackles on the game, but I think he played well on the defensive side of the ball also. But it's as far as players go, they played okay. My biggest loss for this game was Sarkeesian. Like he single handedly with his decision making a lot in the fourth quarter, he had all the ability in the world to win that game for us with all the talent he had on there. And he just didn't make the right play calls. He got very scared at the end on that last drive. Um, the last 2 drives, the one that we had the ball and Oklahoma's last drive. He got scared and didn't give the all gas. And that was the problem that I had is that you preach this all the time. If we're playing Alabama, he doesn't make those play calls. He goes balls to the wall because he wants to be Alabama so bad. This one he played it way too safe. And that was the problem I had is when come time, if we make it to the Big 12 championship, he's got to play a little bit different. He's got to be balls to the wall, all gas, no brakes, because otherwise, this is what's going to happen against good football teams. Like that. That's just how it is for me. So
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely not the game plan I would have expected. The other thing I was going to say about disappointments was I don't know if I have just been missing this throughout the season, but Jalen Ford, dude, he was taking like the worst angles I've ever seen, and he would get to somebody and could never readjust. He'd just sit there with his feet planted and watch him blow by. And I was like, have I been missing this all season, or is this just a today thing? Because I was screaming at the TV over and over when he was doing that.
I think a lot of that
and the
has
lack
to
of
do with,
communication on defense.
yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they haven't really played teams with this hurry up offense like that. I think
Mhm.
that gassed them a lot, and especially
It
in the
did.
third and
Yeah.
fourth quarter. I think that was part of it. I just don't think they were ready for that, which is weird because Sarkisian knew that was going to be coming. Like that's Oklahoma's number one MO is keep the guys on the field so they can't sub out.
Mhm.
And so I think that's part coaching. But yeah, I feel like that's a little part of what you're talking about is that Sark just couldn't get them off the field, and they just got really tired. I mean, our defense was on there for a long time. I didn't look at time of possession, but
Yeah.
We
it
actually had
was
time possession,
did
surprisingly.
we?
But yeah, I
I wonder
mean,
what.
that last drive, I mean, it's it's a painful way to lose a game, but it makes it even more painful that it was a blown coverage. It was a man in
Yeah.
motion, that there was communication between multiple players that, hey, he's in motion, he's going to you. And then we had, them just a mental breakdown, and he played
Yeah.
inside and had outside. The one time we actually got pressure on Gabriel was on that throw. But I mean, he had a guy wide open in the back of the end zone. So
Yeah.
it's just a super frustrating game. I mean, I'm still very confident in this team. I still think Texas can run the table. Still think we can go back to the Big 12 championship. I like our chances if we get OU again. I'm still super confident in this team. This is one of
100%.
those games that you needed to have to kind of figure out where you are. I think the bye week is very timely as well. I think it's going to be good to kind of sit on this and let this sting, and hopefully get some guys that'll kind of light a fire underneath them and
Yeah.
realize that what we still have on the table is there.
Yeah,
So I'm still confident.
Scorched earth from here
I,
on out.
I'm on the same wavelength. Texas has what they need still to get themselves to a possible playoff. If you look at the road ahead right now, what's wild is imagine if West Virginia beats Oklahoma. That's
that
the
would.
Yeah.
one. That's the one kicker. It's like, what if they came in and just beat Oklahoma? That leaves us sitting out of the Big 12. Like that would
Yeah,
be
if
just
they
a.
run if they
I
run
understand,
the
but
table on the Big 12.
as of right
Yes.
now, we got to look at all scenarios.
Yeah,
Now,
nobody's
do I
talking
think
about West Virginia, but yeah.
that's the thing? Is they're 2-0 in conference right now? Now, everyone in the Big 12 just is. It's a dumpster fire. Like Oklahoma State won. There's so many different teams that are now losing. Texas Tech beat Smash Baylor out of
Yeah.
nowhere. Like all these teams are just beating each other up, and they're just creating this atmosphere of okay, well, Oklahoma, Texas, go get it. But I think with what we have left on the table, BYU and maybe Kansas State are the only two that I'm looking at that I'm like, okay, this will be somewhat a tough games. But we've got to dominate every game. If we dominate every single game that we have going forward, and Oklahoma ends up beating West Virginia, that gets us in. I believe. I don't know what the tiebreaker is, but that should get us into the Big 12 again. And I'll tell you right now, playing Oklahoma outside of the Red River versus playing Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl is two different games.
Yeah.
You get up for that Red River game when you're playing the Big 12 championship. All bets are off. The better team is going to win that game, and I'm telling you, Texas is going to come out and smash them in the mouth. They're not going to be able to do it 2 games in a row. Oklahoma is a good football team, but they played a perfect game to win that. Texas had a C game, like they really did. They
Yeah,
weren't firing on
absolutely.
all cylinders. Like I think Oklahoma's a good team, but Texas is just still a better football team. Like you look at it across the board, we really are just a really good football team. I I think Quinn needs to button up some things, but I think Sark learned a lot from this game about the team as a whole and where we're at. And I think he fixes a lot of things. We're going to the bye week. I think he spends that time and really develops him in the next 2 weeks. And then we come out swinging because that's what we're going to have to do. But you look at Georgia. Georgia did this. They lost to Alabama. And next thing you know, they're in the college football playoffs when they beat them at the end of the year in the conference. So it can happen for sure. Penn State has to play Michigan and Ohio State. Like they've all got to battle each other here pretty soon. So that's going to create a spot there. There's still plenty of road for us to get there, and we knew that. I think 30% chance now versus 70% chance is what ESPN had on their feed. But there's plenty of time left. All we got to do is run the table, smash them in the mouth, and get to that Big 12 championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the ultimate goal is still there to get the Big 12 championship, and then I do feel like there's going to be potentially 2 one-loss teams in the playoffs. You know, we'll see how the end of this year kind of falls into place, but it just feels like these like you mentioned, so these teams are going to start trying to beat each other up when they get into conference play, and you're going to see some of these teams take losses. You know, that's what we have to hope for as well.
Well, that's the thing. Georgia still looks beatable. I mean, they've got Tennessee, I think, coming up in a couple weeks. Like,
Yeah.
Georgia still looks beatable. Now they showed up against Kentucky at home.
I was not expecting that, man.
No.
I thought that was going to be really competitive.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at our road and all the teams that are in front of us. Oklahoma still didn't even break. What are they, 5?
They
I
moved
think they ended up
on.
at 5.
Are they 5?
I think they were 5.
Yeah, I was trying to see. They got him
Yeah,
at 5.
OU's 5, and we're 9.
5 and we're 9. So I mean, there's plenty of room there. There's still a lot of football left to play, but Texas has to dominate the rest of the time, and our defense is going to have to really round out. That's for me the biggest thing. The offense is there. We could fire on all cylinders at any time and go off. Problem is that defense just hasn't. The last couple games, you play against Kansas, they still let what's his name in Kansas? Who was the quarterback for Kansas?
Bean.
Or
They still let Beam run all over us for a little bit.
Right. Mobile quarterbacks have been our Achilles heel for a while now.
That's the big thing right now. And the only mobile quarterback that was really a mobile quarterback couldn't throw the ball in Milrow. So, I mean, it's pretty easy to contain a quarterback when he can't actually throw the ball. The problem is Gabriel can throw the ball too. So
Milrow was actually looking better this week. I was watching him for a while. It looks like he's starting to get a little bit more adjusted to that offensive system, but A&M was bringing the pressure on him. They got him.
Bro, I'm so glad A&M did not win that game because that's the last thing I do. See, Alabama's just nothing now. Okay, here we go.
Exactly. That would have been the worst case scenario for us.
Yes. So, let's see. What do we have? What other big games we had? I was completely wrong on all of the big games last week. Like Michigan smoked Minnesota. Ohio State. Now that Ohio State game, they did the same thing. It was close for a long time. That's the thing with Ohio State right now is they keep playing these close games and then in the fourth quarter just turn it on. So, I mean, Michigan's going to smash them if they keep doing that. Penn State may smash them. That's the scary one. So basically, I would think Penn State would need to be Ohio State, and then Michigan would need to be Ohio State and Penn State for us to really get in. I think that's really the real road that we have right now. But then you've got Florida State, maybe Virginia Tech 39-17. USC almost.
That game was close, though. I mean, in the third quarter, it was like a 5-point game. But, Florida State pulled away.
Yep. USC almost got beat by Arizona.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Dude, I was shocked that Syracuse just laid down like that for North Carolina.
Yeah.
Dude.
40-7.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Ole Miss and Arkansas, that was kind of the game that I feel like we kind of anticipated. It was a
Yep.
hard fought game. But ended up pulling out. Louisville going and
Yeah,
pretty much dominating Notre Dame.
they looked
What
great.
was surprising. I hadn't seen Louisville play all year, and I watched a good amount of that game, and they had that crowd rocking, so that may have had something to do with it. But
Oh yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
and
that was an impressive game from them.
I
Yeah.
thought Missouri was going to pull it off against LSU. LSU is such a Jekyll and Hyde team, man. Like they're great,
Yeah.
and then they're bad all in the same game. Like it was close for a long time. But LSU is just kind of one of that fluctuating teams that just they won't show up for a game. The next game they just
Yeah.
dominate.
Did y'all see the Miami Georgia Tech game with?
I saw the last play.
They could have knelt it. They could have knelt it and end the game, but for some reason, Cristobal, draw up a run play and he fumbles it, and you're thinking like, oh, they're not going to go all the way. They're at the their own 30-yard line. They're not going to go across the field. And somehow, some way, Georgia Tech pulls that game out.
Dude, yeah.
I mean, that's
What are the odds?
oof.
It's one of those dreams that you always think of at the end. Like, there's no way that they could still do it, and that actually happened for them.
That actually happened.
Yeah,
Painful
that's
for
awesome.
Miami. Painful for Miami for sure.
Who do we got next week? Let's see. Georgia Vanderbilt, boring.
There's a lot of boring games up top.
Yeah, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio State, Purdue, Florida State, Syracuse.
The top
mean-
four should cruise. The top four should cruise
Yeah.
this next week.
Oregon,
Yeah.
Washington, that'll be a good one.
Yeah, that's probably the best game of the weekend, I would say.
A&M, Tennessee, I think will be a good game also. I think A&M comes off that loss and tries to give a run for their money. USC versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame could just play spoiler alert for USC there.
Yeah, that USC defense is struggling right now.
UNC, Miami. Miami is just after a loss like that, that's pretty tough.
That's the kind of loss that will for sure break a team, I feel like, in my opinion. I mean, I could be totally wrong here, and they could come in and upset North Carolina. But that kind of loss, you could just see the players looking at, like, I think there was the couple on the sideline that I saw them on sports. They were like, what the hell are we doing? Like a lot of division in that locker room, I feel like, after a loss like that.
This is a ideal scenario for me this weekend because I'm spent with football. I need a break. We've got Ranger baseball right now. Okay, so let me talk about that real quick. Rangers are on fire. They have dominated the Rays. They come in with the Orioles in Baltimore. They have a close game. They win a pitching duel, which is not really par for the course for the Rangers in their bullpen. They stepped up. And then yesterday, they come out swinging. They had, I think by the fourth inning, they had 9 runs. Garver with a grand slam finally moved Grossman out of the 3-hole and allowed somebody else to step in there, and Garver stepped up huge in that role. That was one of the biggest moves that Bochy could have made yesterday, was putting Garver in there. Garver's a fastball hitter. He loves swinging at high-velocity fastballs and just smash that 3-1 fastball. This is what I've needed this weekend because everything else would have been severely depressing, but the Rangers are the only thing, ironically enough, that have pulled me out of depression. I know that 2 weeks from now, I'm sure I'll be right back in depression mode with the Rangers, but right now I'm riding the high. They look more dominant than any other team. The Phillies are dominating the Braves again. That was the one team that everyone picked. And if the Phillies win tonight, the Braves are going to be in some hot water trying to get back, going down 2-0. The Astros are in trouble. They lost last night, and you go, oh, well, they won the first game. No, they almost came back. The Twins almost came back and beat them in the first game as well. And now they've got to go play in open environment. They can't be all They can't be playing in air conditioned stadium now. They've got to actually go out into the cold a little bit in Minnesota. And Correa is ready to ruin their chances. Imagine that. Their former player setting records. I think he passed Jeter and somebody else, or Jeter and Ortiz. He passed them in RBIs for playoffs last night, which is a wild stat. Like
that is a wild stat.
Even when the reporter was telling him, he was like, "Wait, what?" He was like, "Yeah, you just passed Jeter and Ortiz and RBIs in the playoffs." He's like, "I'm gonna have to sit back and think about that one." But I mean, the Twins look good right now, and everyone's crying. Well, the Dodgers, the Braves are crying right now because you added this wild card series, and we had to sit there and wait for 4 days before we could actually play a baseball game, and that's why we're losing. Number one, the Braves, you have more talent than anybody. Like, so why are you sitting there complaining? You could smash anybody with the baseball bat at any point, but you haven't showed up. I haven't looked at the score yet, but they were down, I think, 4-0. Let's see. It's 4-1 now. They finally got a run on the board. But this team demolished everybody and runs scored. And you're crying because you got 4 days rest now, and that's why you're losing? No. In baseball, it's the hottest team. So sorry about your bad luck. Figure out how to pitch and figure out how to actually hit the baseball again. I don't feel sorry for you. The Rangers are figuring it out. And to be honest, I'm very happy that the Rangers did not win the AL West now because it did give us momentum. But at the same time, the Astros figured it out by winning their first game. I mean, at some point, you just got to buckle up and play baseball. And that's all the playoffs are, is who's the hottest team. And right now, the Rangers are very spicy.
Yeah, absolutely.
The bullpen. Now, I'm happy the bullpen was able to get a little bit of stress by giving up some runs in a situation that didn't matter. Leclerc got we actually got in a real stadium with fans.
Yeah.
Where they were actually yelling and screaming. And so we got to feel that energy a little bit. I think the Rangers end it tomorrow. And I don't think the Astros make it. If they do, fine. Because I'll tell you right now, our team is ready to smash them in the mouth. The way we're playing right now, I am ready. I won't go to Houston because they're fighting themselves right now. Like, I don't know if y'all saw that video, but they are just straight brawling in their own stadium against each other right now. So they're in shambles. So I think the Twins, I think they push that game to 5 games. So we'll see if they pull it out, but I don't care who we play right now. If the Rangers play like they've been playing, they will beat any team that they play right now because the bats are hot. The starting pitching is fire right now. Montgomery had a little bit of an off game yesterday, but now we got Evo coming in tomorrow, and the bullpen looks. The problem is the bullpen looks so up and down. Adolis comes in yesterday, and I was like, he's so hit and miss, but he buckled down, got out of the inning. Leclerc gave up a run, buckled down, put one at first and second on, and still buckled down and finished the game. We're firing all cylinders right now. Have you heard what they attribute to their winning right now?
Yeah, I did hear this.
So in September, they were in a slump. And they decided we're going to play Creed in the locker room. So now Creed is now just the national anthem of the Texas Rangers. So apparently tomorrow I'll be hearing a lot of Creed, and I'll be listening to Creed the entire way to the Ranger Stadium tomorrow. So, I haven't felt this good about Rangers baseball in a very long time. And I finally let everything go from 2011. And I am all in. I'm sure I will get heartbroken, but I'm all in. It's finally here, and we have a great baseball team. I think this team is a little bit better. If we had a bullpen, though, like if we had a solid 3 guys in the bullpen, dude, no one could touch us. It's unreal what we're doing right now. So we'll see. We just went from plus 1,600 to start the playoffs to now we're leading, I think, plus 345 as the favorite to win now. So everyone's on the bandwagon, but don't need you. The train already left.
Well, crap, I was about to say you're gonna make me want to watch some games now, but after
Yeah,
that
I need
statement,
you.
maybe not.
I need you to get on the bandwagon right now, okay? I need everybody to be on the Rangers side right now because I am sick and tired of these cheating Astros coming in here thinking that they run everything. We're a dynasty. No, you're not. You cheated in 2017 to the point to where they had to make a documentary. I don't know if you guys saw this documentary on YouTube, but it basically verified the fact that they were 1000% cheating and didn't see anything wrong with it. Oh no, it's not a problem. And then they started talking about 2019 when Altuve possibly was wearing a buzzer, and the same guy that set up the TV in their dugout for them to start cheating with using the live feed to look down and see what the catcher's calling. That same guy, when he was asked the question, was Altuve wearing a buzzer? He looked away from the camera, and the whole time he was looking directly at the guy interviewing. And when he was asked a question, he looked away from the camera or from the reporter and gave the answer, and then looked back at him and gave his real answer. Like I still think there's a lot of fishy stuff that happened after 2017 and in 2019. I think there was definitely some fishy stuff, but the guy that turned in the Astros was an Astros fan. He created an algorithm. It was wild. So if you haven't seen this, he created an app that basically listened to every pitch and would listen to the sounds of every pitch. And he had this every pitch going down game after game, and you could clearly see where the trash can was beat in every different one. And I think it was, I want to say it was like 15% of the games where they used this, but it was towards the end, and it was to a point to where you knew that they had invested so much in it with their technology. They're a big technology team now. Like they create stats and everything live time of where they're watching a pitcher and watching his velocity through TrackMan, and they make decisions based off of that. They will call down to the coach and let them know, hey, he doesn't have a slider right now. Like what they've done with technology advanced the game way more than what the A's did to an extreme amount, but half the teams don't even use it. And they got to a point where they're using so much technology, they just decided, all right, well, let's just go ahead and cheat also.
Sound like a conspiracy theorist, man. I got some other cool things to show you on YouTube too.
It's confirmed. This was a confirmed Houston Astros reporter that did this, and it is the Astros GM, the Astros computer guy. Everybody is in this being interviewed, saying, "Yeah, we cheated." Like it's confirmed. Manfred should have never allowed them to have amnesty for snitching. Let them all burn in their grave. No. Pete Rose is over there gambling on himself and still not allowed in the Baseball Hall of Fame, but these guys get to walk scot-free. I don't think so. So no love lost for the Astros fans. But I'm off. I'll now turn it back over to football. All right, so these games are boring this week, but who do we got? So let's just start here. Seth created a good suggestion. We're at the middle of the season, and we're going to pick our thoughts on who is going to win the Power 5 conferences. So,
yep.
Who has them first? Do you have yours ready? I haven't looked them up yet.
Yeah, let's just go conference by conference. Each of us going, but okay. I'll start off with the SEC conference. I'm not gonna do like who's gonna meet in the game, just straight up winner.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take Georgia for it.
Okay.
I sure hope they don't. I want to see them collapse and fall apart, but as far as everything's looking right now, I think Georgia will do it.
All right. Who you got in Big 12?
Oh, you guys don't want to say your SEC?
Oh, we're doing SEC first. Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, that's fine. Jono, who do you?
I'll take LSU getting hot. I'll take a little bold one. I'll take LSU getting hot and running the table.
And Jono just continues with his losing streak. Everything. Okay, let's see here. I am going to take I don't think you can go away from Georgia. I think Georgia's going to win it. Just one of those. I think they'll lose a game before then, but I think they still make it and win that championship there. So, Big 12. Let's just skip through this because
Texas.
if you're not answering this, if you're not answering this the correct way, then you can get off this podcast. How about that? Big 10.
I'm gonna go Penn State. I feel
Ooh,
like Michigan's probably a heavy favorite for everybody around, but I like the upset for Penn State. It'll be fun.
do they remind me? Do they have a championship this year? Or are they still doing just they don't actually have a championship game?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, they have a championship game.
Do they have their top two?
They're cleared.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's the East and the West. So Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan are all in the East.
Didn't last year they not have a championship game? Or am I thinking of a different conference? I thought last year they did not play a conference championship game.
I think they did.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing that.
Okay,
I
well,
don't remember
So we'll have to look
that
at.
happening. As we all Google.
You're taking Penn State over there.
Yep,
I'll take Ohio State in the Big Ten. Ohio against the world. That's just what it's going to be up there. So I'll take Ohio State.
it was Purdue.
Purdue. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The West,
Yeah.
the Big Ten West sucks.
I thought it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Wisconsin,
The game doesn't need to happen.
Wisconsin is leading the Big Ten West right now. But yeah, you have Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, and Maryland all in the East.
Okay. So basically, you're just picking who wins the East.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay.
So we got Penn State, Ohio State.
So who'd y'all pick?
Penn State, Ohio State.
I don't think Michigan gets out of that. I think Michigan wins that. Yeah, I'm taking Michigan.
All three different.
I like it.
Yep. Now the Pac-12.
Pac-12 is interesting.
Pac-12, I'm going to go Washington.
Been
I like them.
Bandwagon for a while.
They slowed down for a little while, but I like the idea of that offense picking them apart. And they have to prove it this weekend against Oregon. So yeah, I'll pick them as my conference champion.
How about 7 ranked teams in that conference right now?
Yeah,
that is absolutely wild. I'm going to take Oregon. I think the Oregon defense is one of the best defenses in the country. I think they've shown it throughout the year. So I'm going to take Oregon in this one.
Okay.
I would like to take Oregon, but just for the sake of this little shindig we're doing here, there's zero chance I'm taking USC. For the championship, I'm actually going to take UCLA.
UCLA, interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna take UCLA.
I thought you were about to say Colorado.
Yeah. Okay, so then ACC.
I'm gonna go with a dog. After the performance last week, I'm gonna take Louisville.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Mac Brown and UNC. I think they've looked good. I think they find a way to get it done.
Okay. A little bit homer pick. I got you.
I'm taking UNC too. I was going to do it anyways. I'm taking UNC as well.
Okay.
I've got USC. Okay. So those are our set championships. We'll create a graphic, I'm sure, with all of our picks, and we'll post that on our Twitter and our Instagram down that way. Down there.
I've given up on trying.
Okay, so now we all went 0 for on Pick'ems last week. 0 for 3 for everybody. Jono got excited. Was like, no, I picked Wyoming. Yeah, well, you picked them at -5.5, and they won by 5. So, no, you're still updated standings. Jono at 1-8, Sess at 3-4-1, and I'm at 3-4-1. We're just a barn burner of picks right now. So
anybody's game. Game.
we're gonna have to crawl out of it now. Who are your picks this week?
I'll go first. I'm going to take Notre Dame to cover. I think the line is 2.5. That's the one I didn't write down the line on. But yeah, Notre Dame to cover.
Notre Dame is 2.5.
Yeah.
Minus 2.5.
And then
Okay.
I'm going to take Tennessee to cover, minus 3.5.
Okay.
And then lastly, I'm taking Washington to cover also at minus 2.5.
Okay. Jono, what you got?
I'm going to take Texas A&M over Tennessee. I think Texas A&M looked pretty good last week.
You're disgusting.
Tennessee has not looked good. I'm going to take Texas A&M outright in that one. I'm going to take Oregon, big Oregon guy, obviously. I'm taking Oregon over Washington. Washington's the 2.5-point favorite there. And then my last one here that I'm going to take is I'm going to take Oklahoma State over Kansas.
Oh,
Really?
God.
You don't want to win, huh?
I'm taking Oklahoma State over Kansas. Oklahoma State just beat Kansas State.
To win straight up or
Yeah.
the plus?
To win straight up.
Oh, boy.
Is there – man, I'm getting confused on quarterback names now. Is there quarterback back for Kansas?
Let me look.
Daniels?
Yeah, Daniels. Likely to sit again that was 4 days ago.
He did not play last week.
He did not play last week, so maybe he comes back this week. Who knows? But they beat UCF 51-22 last week. So I don't know what you're doing, Jono. Like that's an absurd pick.
Hey, they looked good versus Kansas State last
They had
week.
one game this entire season. All right, so my picks. Let me get back to this. I'm going to take Arkansas again, plus 19.5. I'm riding that train. They just love to cover, dude. They cover. Arkansas, it's got to be so bad. I know Jake's an Arkansas fan, but you just cover every week. You play close games, but you never win any of them. Like that's all Arkansas is. It's wild.
Yeah,
that's tough.
I'm going to take Notre Dame over USC straight up, and which I think are they 9.5? They favored? Oh, they are. So I'm taking the 2.5.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I'm taking Mizzou over Kentucky. 2.5. Taking Mizzou over Kentucky. I think Kentucky doesn't bounce back.
I'm liking my odds for taking the lead next week.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so that's in the books. We are on a bye week next week. So we will still have a podcast next week, but we get to relax and enjoy baseball for a minute. And yeah, you guys have anything else for us tonight that y'all want to talk about?
I actually have to jump off like right now, but
Okay, well,
I'm sorry.
this is perfect timing.
Yeah,
Well,
I didn't know if y'all are rapping right now, but either way,
Yep,
I gotta go.
That's good. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.